Now I can say good morning. Good morning, everyone. Before I start my talk, I would like all of you to pick up the order of service, and on the back, if you have a pen, it says notes. And what I'd like you to do is write, I give myself permission to be curious about. And the part about, I'm hoping that you will fill it in by the end of the service. So I give myself permission to be curious about. And just leave it blank and see if anything comes up during this talk. So our yearly theme for Centers for Spiritual Living is Living Out Loud. And our February theme is Curiosity as a Superpower. So, you know, when we were kids, we were pretty curious, right? And I think of my grandson. He would get these Lego blocks and build all these different kind of things. And just watching him, he just had bags and bags of Lego blocks. And it's like, I'm curious as a superpower. We do have that superpower, that curiosity superpower. But sometimes it lays a little dormant. So today I'm going to take it into a different realm. I'm going to go off the beaten path with curiosity. So the weekly title talk is supposed to be Inquiring Minds Want to Flow. But I have added the alchemy of curiosity. So I really started to look at what curiosity really means. And there's a organization called Skillshare. It's an online learning community for creativity. You can get online, you can teach a class, you can learn from them. But what they say about curiosity is the future belongs to the curious, the ones who are not afraid to try it, to explore it, poke at it, question it, turn it inside out. The future belongs to the curious. So how do we create the conditions to allow curiosity to happen in a world that, what we're talking about with Leslie, and how do we create this space in us that allows this curiosity? How do we pull ourselves out of the field of comparisons? How do we do that? I don't know if this is right, but so today what we're going to do is we're going to do just what Skillshare says. We're going to explore, we're going to poke, we're going to question, and we're going to turn it inside out. And we're going to turn it inside out into our internal world. So just be curious about what's going to happen today. Just write down something that you'd like to examine through curiosity. So I give myself permission to be curious about. And so we're going to unpack curiosity today. So let's travel toward this inner journey of discovery. And I want to talk about the alchemy, the definition for alchemy. It's any process of transforming or combining elements into something new. Through some kind of alchemy, he has reinvented himself as a writer. That's an example, through some kind of alchemy. So hopefully today you will begin to be alchemists and you'll turn something new from this curious place. So let's combine a few elements that most of us know about. There's a saying, and it's a spiritual one-liner, that we say, we are human beings having a spiritual experience. Has anybody heard that before? Okay. Or, we're spiritual beings having a human incarnation. It has a really great ring to it, but it's a dualistic thinking. We're living in two worlds when we say that. The alchemist's approach is we simultaneously hold the container for both places. We are both a human person having a spiritual experience, and we're a spiritual person having a human incarnation. So this idea of holding these two spaces together, it allows this truth of both statements. So we're not trying to climb the mountain into this spiritual idea. We're walking in it in our bodies. So we're not either or. We're both and. We're both human and spiritual. We're both of those. So although our primary interest is spiritual transformation, we can't separate out our human experience of emotions. Leslie sang that song because of what's happened over in Asia. And we are part of the whole, we always say. We're a world that works for everyone. So how do we do that? What do we do? Well, there's no bright line to separate the body and mind. We cannot separate them. Our breath is the spirit of the living God. That's who we are. Our breath also breathes in and out of our cellular nervous system. And our breath also breathes in and out of our cells of our heart. So we're all this and even more. We are an emotional garden. That's how I like to think of ourselves. We tend to the garden, the internal garden that we are, as much as we tend to the external? And we do through our meditations and our prayers, right? We enter this garden, and we can enter this garden with curiosity. Because as gardeners know, there's a lot that happens in one day, right? So what happens in our daily lives internally? Are we aware, even when we're walking, when we have a walking meditation, when we're sitting and listening to a song? Are we including everything that's within us to be curious about the strings that are playing, the breath that's breathing? That's how we can get down into our curiosity. So I talked about our daily practices, but what I wanted to really say was we are all mysteries that came into form. We are this mysterious divine design that has been brought into form to live our life curiously, to be in awe and wonder of everything that's happening in this world. So there's a part of us that, and I'm sure most everyone has heard, what is your purpose in life? What is your purpose in life? That used to drive me crazy because I could never answer it because it was always coming from my own ego trying to search it out. Well, I'm going to give you a really easy way. Your purpose in life is to live, to recognize the breath, to recognize the heart beating, to be quiet enough to hear the glory of the garden that we are. That's what our purpose is. So that takes the pressure off the question, what is your purpose in life? So if anybody asks that question, you can say, it's to live. My purpose is to live, to be alive, because that's what we are. We're granted this special, I want to say dispensation, but we're granted this special time to live, to breathe, to pray, to expand, to give, to receive, and to practice. And all that comes from the alchemy of curiosity. So when we begin to get curious about what it means to live, it opens us into a state of receptivity. We become more and more receptive. I wonder what today's going to bring. That's quite a curious question, isn't it? I wonder what today's going to bring. So waking up in the morning and being grateful for the breath that is breathing us, and being curious about, I wonder what today's going to bring. And being open to what today's going to bring. So we become more and more aware of this vibration of goodness. There is this vibration of goodness. And if you were following the earthquake, it's like the goodness that is coming from that. There's a vibration that's happening. I think we saw this morning there was a baby that was saved from the rubble. So there's people go out. It's like, what's mine to do? Mine is to go out and give to these people that are suffering right now. So we become aware of the life that we live. It's an emanation of the only life there is. And it's like a diamond field. That's what we are. We are a field of diamonds. And they sparkle in different ways. And we can point them out and we can breathe them in. So our awareness carries every single quality of the full essence of who we are. So how do we embody this? How do we really take it in? When we discover the nature of being is to live life fully and curiously, we become more open and we begin to listen to what was previously not heard before. And what we listen to are all those parts inside of ourselves. Our mind is constantly going. I'm sure, when anybody tries to sit down and meditate, you've got these little voices in here. Could be sitting on this shoulder, could be sitting on this shoulder, but it's yakking, right? The breath doesn't yak, so we concentrate on our breath. But we have to acknowledge all these different parts of us. And then we become comfortable in our skin. We start to walk in our skin and begin to really feel the vibration of our own essence. So when we come from that place, we live from the space of healing ourselves. Here we live in a state of mystery because we don't know what the day is going to bring, and awe, and we live in the question. We live in the question. That's what's mine to do. And it always reminds me of the part where Jesus says, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." We have that little child inside of us that is that curious part of us. We let it come unto us. We let that child part of ourselves. If people talk about inner child or they talk about a vibration, we let whatever that part of us is that is just imaginative and exploring, and we allow that inner garden to spring forth all the flowers that we are. So if we don't do that, we begin to think that we already know. Has anybody got, okay, I know. It's the all and the everything, I know. I know. But we don't allow room to come in to say, I don't know. Show me, I don't know. So this true transformation is discovered in the unknown. So when we do that all in the everything, it kind of stagnates our life. So we have to let all the feelings, everything that we have, everything that we know, this true transformation is discovered in the unknown. Internal, unfamiliar voices, thoughts, feelings, and images dwell in the deeper part of our soul. And those places are not always led by our conscious awareness. Sometimes it's our unconscious. And reaching those parts of us that sometimes we like to push away, these parts are something that we can learn from. And reaching those parts is an act of kindness to ourselves. And that's what this is. We start to develop a friendship in these, what I call orphan parts. And we become curious about what it wants to tell us. Not us telling it, but let it tell us. We get a little tweak, something, what's this, Because if we don't, we will create something in our life that'll bring in a relationship that shows us. It's just a mirror. It's a mirror for our internal thinking. So we begin to develop this friendship from our orphan parts. And we start to have a new lens on our life. So life begins to take on a deeper meaning. The more curious we are, the deeper the meanings come through. Carl Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." We have to bring in that part of us that sometimes we don't want to look at or we don't want to see or, something's not right. But when we welcome it in, we open the door to it, it eventually turns into the light. So when we attend only to the parts that are pure spirit, it pushes the pieces of our soul away. It pushes a part of ourselves away. So we have to bring both. Just like daylight and night, we have to come together with both. So I always say you have to feel it to heal it. You have to feel it to heal it. And if we don't evoke these feelings in various then, like I said, other relations will help us. We open the door for it. So it never really gets pushed down. It does get pushed out. So through our curiosity, we can develop friendships with all our orphaned parts. The shadow, the places that hurt, any unfelt grief, betrayals, orphans of our psyche, stories we tell ourselves. So recently I discovered a new friend, which was fear for me. And I decided I was going to be curious with it. Instead of me going, oh, I'm scared, or I'm anxious, or I welcomed it in. I sat down with it, and I felt its essence. I felt the edges of it. I felt it all. And I became curious. And I discovered that my fear, when I was young, it was a way to keep me safe. Because I had surgery at 9 months old, so I didn't have a vocabulary at that time, but I had feelings, and I have energy, and so that was when that birthed itself. But it birthed itself in a way to keep me safe. So rather than struggling and purging this idea of fear, I became friends with it. And then it turned into, I think it's an acronym. Fear is feeling excited and ready. It changed my whole energy around the word fear into, oh, wow, I am feeling excited and ready. But it's because I don't know what the next step is that I think it's fear. But it's really excitement. So this laid a new foundation of discovery for me. And what I love about the foundation is it's the foundation of love. It's absolutely our foundation of love. It came from loving. And I became feeling excited and ready. And what I did with that was I began to build a scaffolding to create new pathways of experiencing fear and other emotions. So we have a foundation of love, and so we need to build a scaffolding of all our emotions. So what I did was it helped me become more flexible and free. And I used curiosity to see what the next emotion was. Instead of me saying what it is and telling myself what it is, I allowed it to tell me. No more definitions, just, oh, I'm curious, what is this feeling? What is happening with me right now? So instead of becoming a project of self-improvement, life becomes a welcoming and kindness of our internal map of the world. So life has a foundation of love. Kindness to self is the welcoming mat. And our scaffolding can be curiosity. And as we enter the internal delights of this garden, how do we develop this map of our internal world? Matt Licata is a psychologist and a spiritual teacher. And he's written several books. And he says this about the shadow. One of the shadow sides of spiritual seeking and the seemingly endless process of self-improvement is that we never slow down to digest what we already have been given. Sometimes we're off to the next, and we're off to the next, and it doesn't have to be spiritual. It could be work, it could be kids, it could be parents, it could be whatever. But we never slow down, to digest and think of that in that way. In Tibetan tradition, there's an image of a hungry ghost, a figure of this imaginal realms with a large, distended belly and a very, very tiny mouth. No matter how much food or experience is consumed, there's this deep ache and longing for more. The ghost holds this insatiable hunger, no matter how much is taken in. Because the ghost is not able to digest or make use of or enjoy what is given, a hole is left behind that can never be filled. Sometimes we ghost ourselves in this way. And I didn't know what ghost meant, but that's one of the new phrases, right? You're ghosting me. When somebody said that to me, it was like, I don't know, I got to get back to the 20 years old, 30 years old. I got to talk to my kids. What does ghosting mean? You're not paying attention. Sometimes we ghost ourselves. We don't pay attention to what's going on here. We're busy doing something else. We have this, sometimes we have this insatiable hole. We want to fill it. We want to fill it. The invitation is to slow down, send compassion and kindness directly into this hole. There's this deep longing that we have. And if we can just allow the longing to be present without trying to fill it, with a book or a paper or a relationship or anything else, what if we just sat with this longing? Because it's beautiful. It's a longing that's been here from birth. And we're consumers. We like to consume. So what if we just tended to what was here? Not what's missing or what might come someday. What if we slow down? What if we slow our mind down and become mindful of the ways we seek to fill that emptiness? Just become mindful of, oh, there is that part of me. There are soul nutrients buried in the food of our embodied experience. The food of our embodied experience. And they yearn to be integrated. They yearn to be metabolized and assimilated in the flame of your heart. They need that assimilation into the flame of your heart. And as we all know, digestion requires enzymes for the body, but it also requires enzymes for our soul. And the enzymes for our soul is presence, embodiment, and compassion. And I include curiosity of what's here and now. Those are the enzymes for our soul. So as alchemists, and we all are, we must meet the material as it first comes into our consciousness. And what that means is transforming what we're triggered by, transforming by what's happening. So when we tend to that material that shows up with warmth, curiosity, and interest, we get to know its qualities. We get to know the flavor of it. And we might not want to open our hearts to it, and that's okay. We have to give ourselves permission for where we are right now. The art and patience of just giving yourself permission is a true act of kindness. We can't force ourselves to be someplace where we're not. We can try, but something happens inside of us, and it's like a betrayal of our own soul. So we have to work slowly into whatever material we're working with. And we have to feel their qualities and their textures and discover that although they may appear as obstacles, they really are portals or passageways into our own soul's longing. So as alchemists of curiosity, we must enter into the relationship with all the elements. We are born into this new form by our curiosity and exploration, just by welcoming whatever is present. We have this direct experience of our inner garden, which welcomes a mandala. We can create our own inner mandala. Ernest Holmes states, the whole scheme of the universe is that of a benevolent conspiracy to grant us the very best. The benevolent conspiracy is curiosity and kindness that we come to embrace through our journey into the garden of our wild soul. So I want to end with a poem from John O'Donohue. It's a prayer for your wild soul. Give yourself time to make a prayer that will become the prayer of your soul. Listen to the voice of longing in your soul. Listen to your hungers. Give attention to the unexpected lives around the rim of your life. Listen to your memory and to the inrush of your future, to the voices of those near you and those you have lost. Out of all that attention to your soul, make a prayer that is big enough for your wild soul, yet tender enough for your shy and awkward vulnerability, that has enough healing to gain the ointment of divine forgiveness for your wounds, enough truth and vigor to challenge your blindness and complacency, enough graciousness and vision to mirror your immortal beauty. Write a prayer.